You likely know the feeling, operating at peak professional capacity while your internal systems are redlining. This is the reality of systemic stress, chronic pain, and a deep mental exhaustion that a weekend of sleep cannot fix. Standard beach vacations often fail because they only provide a temporary pause. You return to the office with a tan, but the underlying physiological depletion remains exactly where you left it. This comparison highlights the difference between an escape and a reset. While one offers a distraction, the other targets your biology to repair the structural damage caused by high-pressure environments. Think of it as a mandatory software update for your body. Real recovery requires specific therapeutic protocols to patch the system rather than just a change of scenery. Shifting from a state of burnout to one of rejuvenation requires moving beyond localized breaks and entering a dedicated, immersive wellness environment. Deep biological recovery happens in spaces like this, vast, serene landscapes that provide the necessary distance from corporate demands. Wellness and Health for All serves as your liaison to these environments. They connect you with world-class practitioners and luxury resorts across Asia, managing every logistical detail so you can remain focused on your health. By removing the friction of planning and scheduling, you are free to surrender completely to the recovery process. To understand the return on this time investment, we have to look at the clinical biology of a primary retreat therapy, acupuncture. Traveling to Asia for these treatments is a strategic investment in accessing care that is rigorously validated by modern medical science. Acupuncture is a pillar of traditional Chinese medicine that has been practiced and refined for over 2,500 years. Today, it is recognized by the WHO and NIH as a valid clinical therapy. The traditional view centers on qi, a life force flowing through 14 main meridians. In this framework, illness is the result of blocked energy channels. Practitioners insert needles at specific acupoints to unblock these channels and restore physiological harmony. Modern neurobiology validates this ancient map by looking at the nervous system. This model demonstrates the physical input. The needles stimulate neurovascular nodes, sending direct signals to the brain. This triggers the release of endorphins and serotonin, shifting the autonomic nervous system from a stressed state into a healing state. Whether viewed through the lens of energy or neurobiology, the shift from stress to healing is an objectively measurable physical event. Diagnosis is a meticulous process. A practitioner evaluates internal health by checking the tongue and feeling the pulse at different depths on the wrist. The tools are sterile, single-use, solid stainless steel filaments. At the thickness of a human hair, these needles slide between tissues rather than cutting them. Reaching a therapeutic state requires pushing past the initial sensation to experience qi, a characteristic dull ache or heaviness. During the treatment, you lie perfectly still in a dim room for 30 minutes. This period of surrender often leads to deep, restorative sleep. Some sessions employ electroacupuncture, using a microcurrent to enhance the neurological effect on the patient's back. Alternatively, moxibustion uses heat from dried herbs to stimulate specific points and improve circulation. The core trade-off is control. Achieving deep nervous system regulation requires you to disconnect entirely from the outside world. Acupuncture is a cumulative therapy. The biological benefits build upon each other, which is why a single appointment rarely addresses chronic conditions. Resolving chronic pain or severe anxiety typically requires a dedicated course of 6 to 8 treatments over a short period. Success depends on strict protocols, light meals, intensive hydration, and avoiding all strenuous physical activity after a session. This ensures the body's energy is focused on processing the new neurological settings rather than the demands of digestion or muscle repair. Because this cumulative cycle requires total environmental stability, attempting to manage it alongside a daily commute and work schedule is highly inefficient. A lasting recovery begins with a clear-eyed assessment of your current physiological requirements. If your goal is simply a temporary break from the office, a standard resort is an appropriate choice. However, if you are managing chronic pain or systemic burnout, the evidence points towards cumulative therapy. Because the body requires a period of total environmental stability for these biological changes to take hold, a curated retreat offers the highest return on investment. It eliminates the stress of the daily grind, allowing the treatment to work without interruption. Holistic therapies are powerful, but they are not magic. They demand the right environment to reach their full clinical potential. Your professional performance depends entirely on your mental and physical health. The wellness sanctuaries of Asia provide a level of cultural depth and historical authenticity that supports this deep healing process. Investing in a curated experience ensures your time is spent actively recovering, rather than managing the friction of travel and logistics. Let the experts guide you back to a state of peak performance. Start your biological reset today by contacting the curators at Wellness and Health for All.